harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Everyone loves the look of granite countertops, but they aren't the only option. When it's time to give your kitchen, bathroom, or basement a fresh new look, start at CountertopFactoryLLC.com. Countertop Factory offers high-quality laminate countertops that look amazing and cost just a third of the price of stone. Yeah, you heard that right. A third of the price. And these aren't your grandma's countertops. You'll get that luxurious look and feel without emptying your wallet. And with beautiful varieties of colors and patterns, it's easy to find something affordable and durable that fits your style perfectly. Countertop Factory installs most countertops in only 7 to 10 days from when they measure. That's faster than you can binge watch your favorite series. And it's not just countertops. At Countertop Factory, browse cabinet options to match your new countertops. All professionally installed to ensure everything looks flawless. From homes to offices to schools and hospitals. Get started 24/7 at CountertopFactoryLLC.com. That's CountertopFactoryLLC.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Neese.
No accidents, no delays. Your freeways and your main secondaries are in good shape at this time. Murdoch Hyundai, home of 3.99% for 6 years on Santa Fe, Tucson, or Elantra. Ricky Neese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cloudy this afternoon with a high of 61, then clearing out overnight with a low of 44. Tomorrow, 68 degrees and sunshine. Right now it's 55 and mostly cloudy. I'm Jessica Lowe from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com, where Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
A milestone in President Trump's second term happening this week. It's the end of the first 100 days in office. This is a big step, Taylor Morgan, for every president since FDR, because we kind of talked about, wow, the drastic changes FDR did in 1933 in response to the Great Depression. He had all of this legislation coming down the pike, throwing it at Congress, and in the first 100 days just did all of this work. So generally, when we talk about presidents in the last 90 years, we use this 100 days as that, milestone, as that marker.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Are they able to accomplish everything they promised? Have they been able to set a tone for the rest of their term? Welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host, Leah Murray, alongside Taylor Morgan, who's my absolute favorite person to discuss politics with. And I'm going to tell you what, Taylor, it's been a long minute since they let us. And I do feel like maybe the next 2 hours will prove why.
Let us host together, Leah, is what you're referring to.
Yeah,
well, I have a lot of thoughts about President Trump's first 100 days. Leah, when we think of President Trump's first 100 days in office, it has been truly a whirlwind. Donald Trump has signed more executive orders almost by double than days he has been serving as president in his second term so far.
And he's bragging about it.
He's bragging about it. So not only has President Trump been uniquely prolific, he has also been riding a roller coaster of approval when it comes to how American voters feel about his actions as president. Initially, there was a lot of favorability about President Trump's actions when it came to immigration, when it came to the border, when it came to trying to stop the war in Ukraine. Leah, the tariffs and the economy right now, I believe, have completely changed the conversation surrounding President Trump. During the first half hour of today's show here on KSL Inside Sources, we're going to go in depth on President Trump's first 100 days. Also, Leah, we're going to speculate a little bit, talk about what could come in President Trump's next 100 days. But first, let's get back to the point I was just making. New polling shows that President Trump is struggling And when I say struggling, Leah, this is not a soft struggling. This is a real struggle. President Trump's approval ratings are tanking in a big way. And the way I see it, a lot of this has to do with the tariffs and the economic uncertainty. What's your take, Leah?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that they are tanking. Actually, let's listen to ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers give us the data that we're talking about.
39% approval rating for the president, 55% disapproval. That is the lowest 100-day approval rating of any president in the last 80 years. And the other big thing to look at, too, is his handling of the economy. That was a big issue for him as a candidate. He promised to lower prices on day one, and it was something that voters very much liked. 72% say that they believe his policies are likely to cause a recession. 53% of Americans say the economy has gotten worse since the president took office.
So I wanted to compare it. So she just said it's been 80 years, right, since another president looked this bad 100 days in. Let's do a recent comparison. Joe Biden's approval rating was at 54%. Barack Obama had 62%. George W. Bush had 63%. So you might say, dude, 80 years is a long time. This is a pretty polarized time. Except that Biden, Obama, Bush, right? They're all also presidents during this polarized time. And all of their ratings are 10 to 20 points higher. And then let's just compare him to himself. His rating is 1 point lower than his approval rating in his first term at 100 days. So I think it's about the tariffs. I think it's about the economy. But I just want to kind of point out, every president's had drama, right?
Yes,
Joe Biden was reacting to the COVID, right? President Obama was reacting to the 2008 recession that had just happened. George W. Bush is kind of reacting to, well, I don't know what he was. I'm trying to remember in 2001. 9/11 hadn't happened yet. Anyway, I was just going to say, they all have drama. So you can't say, wow, it's tanking because it's the economy. But also, it's tanking because the tariffs, these are own goals. Don't you think, Taylor?
These appear, Leah, and again, it's a very complicated situation. The economy is in large part something that no one president has a real firm grasp on. President Trump doesn't completely control the economy all by himself. However, the way I see it, in my opinion, we have a series of unforced errors by the president. President Trump came into his second term in office with a clear mandate from American voters, having won the popular vote and the Electoral College, the first Republican
and Congress. I just want to be clear, right?
Yes, the first Republican presidential candidate in 20 years to win both the popular vote and the Electoral College. A clear mandate to take action and improve the economy. The big criticism of the Biden administration was the economy and also immigration reform. President Trump started out with strong numbers, with high ratings on his handling of immigration reform and the economy, Leah, until we have gotten in these reciprocal tariff wars that are creating so much uncertainty in the economy. President Trump is picking these fights. He is not responding to economic pressures coming from abroad or even internally. He is literally out there picking fights that are affecting the entire global economy, and American voters are starting to pay the price. We are seeing businesses having to lay employees and workers off. We are seeing the reduction in workforce in all kinds of outcomes. Now, I speak as a Republican voter who voted for Joe Biden in 2020 and who voted for Donald Trump in 2024.
Yeah.
I voted for Donald Trump in 2024. I was willing to hold my nose, Leah, and put up with all of his major character flaws, even putting up with the history of January 6, 2020. I was willing to stomach all of that because at the time I believed Donald Trump was the best choice for the economy going forward. Right now, I'm one of the majority now of American voters who disapprove of his handling of the economy.
Yeah, so the economy, 34% approval. So let's do the reverse, what you just said. 64% disapproval on tariffs, 67% disapproval of the recent turmoil in the stock market, 61% disapproval of the economy. But let's look, immigration, maybe Like, maybe that's good. Nope. 53% of Americans disapproving of how he's handling immigration.
And can I interject there? This is just, again, my opinion, but I believe it's valid because it's my opinion. But,
Yeah.
but based on information, it isn't how President Trump is handling immigration necessarily. It's the fact that the conversation around immigration reform now has been taken over by lack of due process.
Right.
That has changed the narrative, and he is losing the messaging on immigration.
Right.
And losing the polling.
Later in the show, we're going to talk about how U.S. citizen children were deported to Honduras.
Unacceptable.
Right. On this show, we've talked about people who should not have been sent to El Salvador being sent to El Salvador.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not that. Those are also own goals. Right? Like on the tariffs, there's a beautiful quote from Ronald Reagan, who's like, when you start a trade war, you're shooting a hole in the boat.
Holes in the boat.
Right?
The boat is gone, Leah,
Yeah,
and
like-
we are all swimming trying to stay above water.
Right, like literally.
President Trump has obliterated the boat.
He's obliterated the boat. Yeah. I mean, just a little bit. And I'm just going to tease you. Is it okay? Can I just say, how you feeling about your vote, Taylor Morgan?
I'm feeling very disappointed.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
frustrating. I mean, honestly, Leah, I was willing to stomach so many negative things about President Donald Trump.
Because you thought he was going to make.
Because I
Right.
truly believed he would do the right things for the economy. And historically, just having a Republican in the White House generally means good things for the economy. And instead, President Trump, in my eyes, has been actively seeking out ways to hurt the economy. And I was willing to stomach a little bit of problem with due process, Leah, if we finally did something, if we finally moved the ball forward on immigration reform. But now the conversation is not about immigration reform or securing the border, Leah. The problem is the narrative now is about deporting American citizens without due process.
Right. Yeah.
And I just can't stomach that anymore. It's gone too far. I'm over it. President Trump, get your house in order. It's a mess.
Next up on Inside Sources, what the president has accomplished. I want to pivot, if that's okay with you, Taylor. Let's see what's going to come up next. Stay with us.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
With Progressive's collision coverage, my family gets up to $1,000 for vet bills if I'm injured in a car accident. And that makes this Chihuahua really feel like part of the family. What's that? I don't sound like a Chihuahua? Oh, I'm sorry. What exactly am I supposed to sound like? I guess all Chihuahuas are high-strung, riding around in expensive designer purses. Actually, I prefer riding in cars. So I appreciate that my family protects me with Progressive's pet collision coverage. Okay, maybe I am a little high-strung. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states. Coverage for dogs and cats is included with the purchase of collision coverage and is subject to policy terms.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. Be the someone who gives their time. Be the someone who lends an ear. Be the someone who takes a step. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN, asking you to join the fight against sexual violence and volunteer in your community. Log on to RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org, to learn how you can be the someone.
This message brought to you by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network and this station.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Jeff Kaplan. I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Last segment, we talked about President Trump's low approval rating 100 days into a second term. I shared some of my personal hot takes, what is been grinding my gears, so to speak, when it comes to President Trump, someone who voted for him primarily to, hopefully improve the economy. That has happened, but I feel like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back with President Trump's handling of the economy. This is Taylor Morgan here alongside Leah Murray. Leah.
Taylor, do you think we were too harsh? So we had someone text us in and basically said we needed to be patient. And I feel like that's a fair point, right? Maybe that's a fair criticism. But I guess I wanted to say, and so you tell me if I'm wrong, because maybe we were being too harsh, but I think, as we talked about it, a lot of these are own goals.
Yeah.
Right? So, I feel like I can be impatient when the choices being made are totally in his control.
Yeah.
And I don't think are great choices.
Well, yes, the economy takes time to respond to anything that a president does, anything Congress does. The markets do take time to respond. And we have seen in President Trump's first 100 days alone, we have seen the economy respond very positively in the short term and very negatively
right,
in the short term.
Right, because I'm sitting here thinking of how many trillions of dollars did we lose in the stock market?
And so, yes, over time in the long term, the stock market always performs, right? That's history. That is a fact. Yet also, what is the famous economic saying? In the long term, we are all dead. And Leah, President Trump's...
Is that a famous economic saying? I love that.
At least that's...
I'm going to have to go look for that.
You may not find that online. It might just be me saying that, Leah.
But it's famous now.
You can attribute that quote to me if you can't find anybody more meritorious having said it online. But the point I'm making is, yes, we should be patient when it comes to the market. But Leah, my issue with that is President Trump keeps making one decision after another that appear to be self-inflicted wounds when it comes to the economy. The markets clearly want to be optimistic. The markets want to be hopeful. The markets, and we all want to respond in a positive way. But Leah, the real issue with the economy, I believe, isn't so much any one decision by President Trump. It isn't any one tariff. It is the complete lack of uncertainty. And it's the economic uncertainty that is preventing businesses from investing, from growing, from expanding. Businesses are holding back on investments. They're holding off on expansion. They are reducing inventory, reducing workforce because they simply don't know what's coming next. The uncertainty is the problem, and that is something President Trump could deal with. He could address that right now.
Right.
But instead, he continues to create uncertainty with one decision after another, and these are self-inflicted wounds. They are unforced errors.
All right, so let's take a look at some progress. So I want to, because I do feel maybe we are being too harsh on the president. Inflation has fallen. So it was at 3% in January. In March, it was 2.4%. President Trump said, we already solved inflation.
Well, the price of eggs is down slightly.
Right, so there's that.
Chalk up a win there.
I'm not 100% sure we've solved it, but, right? He also promised to pay off all of our debt. And I'm not really sure the tariff plan he has is going to actually bring in enough revenue to take off the $37 trillion that we have, or $36.7 trillion in debt that we have. He's cracked down on illegal immigration. So that was a promise. Obviously, it was a thing.
And the numbers at the border prove that.
Oh, yeah. So
a lot of credit should go to President Trump for this.
So 249,000 people, 249,740 people coming across the border December 2023. In March, 7,181. That's huge. I mean, right? Even like math is not that hard to see that is a major win. But also at the same time, like we talked about deporting without due process tarnishes the win.
This is so difficult, Leah, because I have been a big fan of President Trump's movement and action when it comes to immigration reform. Leo, for the last half century, neither political party has been willing to do anything meaningful when it comes to immigration reform, to securing the border. And a lot of that has had to do with using immigration as a perpetual political football in campaigns. And at the same time, a lot of it has been concerns around the process and how things could get really messy with deportation and with securing the border. I want to give President Trump and his administration a ton of credit for just taking action, for just finally someone has done something to secure the border, to deport violent criminals, and move on immigration reform. But Leah, because the Trump administration has been unwilling to handle issues with due process in the right way or at all, that is they have completely lost the narrative. And the focus is no longer on the positive outcomes. It is instead focused on, the very infrequent cases of lack of due process. But I'm sorry, if you allow a child who is an American citizen to be deported without due process, I'm going to care about that.
Right. Actually, I like how you said it's a few, but it's almost like one's too many.
Absolutely right.
So, another promise that President Trump made was to slash their energy bills. And I have a question for you, because I know that, the state of Utah in the last session did a lot of work to get nuclear energy to come online, to work on kind of building up our energy grid, our energy portfolio. Taylor, when Utah succeeds, so our energy prices go down, then does Trump get credit for that?
I think he should get some credit for that. And look, gas prices are down. And those of us who are about to start the busy summer road trip, travel season, boating season, what have you, gas prices are down. I'm happy about that. I know a lot of Utahns and Americans are happy about that. And we should give President Trump credit for that.
Okay. He also promised that before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. So that's a quote from President Trump to a National Guard Association conference in Detroit back in August. That one's not a win, Taylor, right? Like, clearly that's not working out.
But at the same time, I want to give him credit and am willing to give President Trump a lot of credit for trying to end the war in Ukraine. Now, it's been messy. Personally, I really don't love how he has cozied up to Vladimir Putin.
Who then has been just like bombing all over the place.
I'm not
right?
happy about that relationship. Yeah. I'm not happy about what appears to be a very lopsided engagement with Russia versus Ukraine on that. But I don't know if you caught the images of President Trump sitting one-on-one alone in the Basilica in the Vatican there, following the Pope's funeral. Seeing President Trump one-on-one sitting down, just alone with Vladimir Zelensky. Leah, I want to celebrate the fact that he is trying to end that war. Again, it is a messy, ugly at times process, but the fact he's willing to do it and take political risks to try to get peace, I think that's something we're celebrating.
Okay, so that's a win.
Not a win. Let's give him a win for trying, but the outcome has not been realized.
Maybe it's like an achievement of a first down or something.
He has enabled
right?
Russia to commit more atrocities. That's a problem, too. So, again, this is the story of President Donald Trump.
Yeah, right there. It's like, you want to give the win. I'm trying real hard here to be like...
You're trying hard to give him a win, but boy, are the negative outcomes of his process worse than the status quo, Leah? That's the question. With immigration, with the war in Ukraine, is President Trump getting involved, doing it in his way? Is it creating more harm than good? I don't know the answer to that. That's what we're exploring right now.
Yeah, and my question is for like Republicans politically, right? Is it causing more harm for them down ballot than good?
Yeah, that's the question, something that we will explore. Again, we're taking a deep dive into the first 100 days of President Trump's second administration. Leah, the next 100 days is going to be very interesting. But going back to that listener's text, should we be patient with President Trump? What are the outcomes that his very messy decisions and processes will, what are those outcomes? We don't know. It's fair to criticize the process, Leah, give credit where we want to, criticize where we feel appropriate. But there's a lot that we don't know about President Trump's next 100 days. So we'll get into that and more coming up next. When we come back on Inside Sources, let's double click on these deportations without due process. It has been a very hot talking point over the last 100 days. We need to talk about this child, again, Leah, a U.S. citizen who got caught up in deportations and has been sent out of the country without due process. We'll talk about that next.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top story this hour. Union workers have enough verified signatures to put a new Utah law on the ballot next year. Voters will get to decide the fate of the bill that would have gotten rid of collective bargaining rights. Murray City is gearing up for a major redo of its city center. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly reports.
The Salt Lake City suburb is trying to get rid of its mismatched look while allowing for more mixed-use spaces. That's what Murray City senior planner David Rogers tells BuildingSaltLake.com. He says they want to give Murray a more cohesive, defined direction. People will see a difference between the residential and city center areas.
The area around 4800 South State Street is already in the process of rezoning for mixed use. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The nation's border czar says it was parents, not the Trump administration, who removed the 3 U.S. citizens under the age of 7 from the country. Tom Homan spoke to reporters today.
This was a parental decision, parenting 101. The mothers made that choice. And I tell you what, if we didn't do it, the story today would be Trump administration separating families again. No, we're keeping families together. Having a U.S. citizen child does not make you immune from our laws.
Family attorneys say one of the kids is a 4-year-old with cancer. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow now in positive territory. The Dow sitting at 40,185. It's up 72 points. S&P 500 down by about 8 points, and the NASDAQ is down by 64 points. Clearing but cold overnight. We'll take a look at the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car is making this noise. Sometimes it's like doot doot, and sometimes it's like grrr.
Do you have a dash light on?
Oh yeah.
Then we don't have to listen for clues. With the free Fix Finder service, we can read a check engine, ABS, or maintenance light to find the likely fix and even recommend a local shop if you need one.
So you don't need to hear the grrr.
Not with Fix Finder. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Let me ask you a question. You have a best friend? How big would it shock you if somebody told you that your best friend just killed somebody?
911, what's your emergency? Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son, and they're demanding $500,000.
On September 12th, 1995, 12-year-old McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas. It was a crime that shocked the community because the suspect was so unlikely, so unexpected.
Former high-ranking police official. He'd run for sheriff at one point.
Law enforcement personnel were pretty much split down the middle over whether or not he actually did this.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, still feels that justice was never truly served.
I've asked myself so many times, what in the world happened?
Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. And here's Ricky Meese.
No delays, but crews in Spanish Fork are cleaning up a crash northbound I-15 at Main Street. It's really been out of traffic to the shoulder. You're not going to see any backups, but they are in the final cleanup stages in Utah County. Your Salt Lake County freeways are all clear. Of course, you can always text us your traffic tips to 57500. That's the KSL Mountain Home Services text line. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cloudy this afternoon with a high of 61 and then clearing overnight with a low of 44. Tomorrow, 68 degrees and sunshine. Right now, it's mostly cloudy, 55 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
U.S. citizens cannot legally be deported because the United States is their country, right? So ICE cannot show up at my house and deport me anywhere.
But it's happening. So when you say cannot,
it's not coming to my house.
Theoretically, they cannot, right?
Yeah, all right. No, not even theoretically. Absolutely,
Constitutionally,
you cannot
legally
deport a United States citizen.
But when you say can and cannot, Leah, these are very firm terms, right?
They are, because they should be.
Okay, keep going.
But what happens, this is the question, I think it's a big question. with children who are American citizens living with parents who are not. So I think this is at the heart of the birthright citizenship conversation that our president wants the country to have, to turn over 100 years of case law, to rethink what the 14th Amendment says, which right now says that we is jus soli, which means by the soil, and jus sanguine, which means by the blood, citizenship.
Yeah.
So if you are born on American soil, you are an American citizen. President Trump doesn't like that. He wants to get rid of that part of the citizenship understanding as part of his efforts, as you said earlier, that you thought was a huge win, to do immigration reform and to secure the border. I'm just going to put it right on you, Taylor Morgan. It's a question that immigration officials and federal judges have to look at now. It's now no longer like a let's have a fun debate about this or let's just talk about it, because we have deported a 2-year-old United States citizen to Honduras because that child was found with their non-citizen mother and their non-citizen sister, and they are now a U.S. citizen, having been deported, living abroad.
Yeah. The complication here, Leah, is that there is now it's unacceptable to be deporting a U.S. citizen, unequivocally.
Full stop.
Full stop. Unacceptable. Is there an argument to be made about keeping the family together, given that the child is 2 years old?
Yes, together here in the United States,
let's
where
talk
the
about
child
that.
is a citizen,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
let's listen to the ACLU says young American citizens are getting caught up in these ICE raids, including this one story. This is ABC's Perry Russum, has more.
This case is out of New Orleans. 2-year-old American citizen was detained with her mom and sister, who are undocumented. An attorney for a family friend was trying to file a temporary restraining order to release the 2-year-old, and the government responded saying, look, it's in the best interest of the child to stay with the mom. And before that TRO could be ruled on, all 3 of them, the 2-year-old American citizen, the mom, and the sister, were deported to Honduras. And the ACLU is calling this a rapid early morning deportation. So a U.S. district judge says the government deported the 2-year-old with no meaningful process. There's going to be a court hearing on that on May 16th.
So again, earlier, what did you say? It's a win, except for due process. Right here, they were asking a court to kind of figure this out, and the Trump administration's like, we don't really care what the court is saying, and they hurriedly deported this family.
Yeah, it's a problem. It is clearly unacceptable to deport a U.S. citizen. Now, in this situation, of course, the child is 2 years old. The child was deported with family members who are not U.S. citizens. Leah, this is a really good example on a micro scale of my personal frustrations with President Trump's immigration reform policies. It is a really good thing, I believe, that our southern border is now far more secure in terms of just the numbers of individuals illegally crossing our border. Our border today, under President Trump, and because of his immigration policies, our border is far more secure than it was really, honestly, for the last 30, 40 years. We have seen in real life the numbers drop. Now, it's not perfect. We have issues, but that's a good thing. Yet on the other side of this coin, Leah, and I know you're looking at me right now because you want to call me out, but I'm going to get there. I also believe and know that America is great because of its immigrants, because of migration, because of people seeking a better life coming to our country. Now, they should do that legally, but there also is a place in our country and in our economy, not just for migrants, Leah, but for asylees seeking refuge from violence, from economic devastation. I worry about our country and our future and who we are in others' eyes globally.
Yeah.
I worry about that.
By the way, if you ask me why we only have 7,000 people crossing the border now, part of me is like, because now we're a country that deports a 2-year-old citizen to another country.
Yeah.
That is not greatness.
It's not greatness, but
in any movie, that is the bad actor.
When people who should not be coming here, when they see that they will be deported, if they do, that And I know there are cases
on the backs of this 2-year-old child.
No.
So real quick, can I loop us back? Because you
No.
said...
Let me loop
go.
back and say what I hope listeners are hearing right now.
Yeah.
Is that I am conflicted and that I have serious reservations and concerns about this. And my worry here, Leah, is that as much as I want to give President Trump credit for taking meaningful, swift, albeit messy action on immigration reform, I want to give him credit for that. I want to commend it. No process is perfect. Yet the problem is the imperfections in the process are now the story. That is now the narrative because a 2-year-old citizen was deported.
Right. And so the question you asked earlier was like, shouldn't families stay together, right? But the father is here. Right? So the father is on the phone with ICE agents being like, well, whatever is happening, let me have my child who is a U.S. citizen. He could stay with me.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, deport immediately.
Yeah. Unacceptable.
Right. So
Full
it's
stop.
like you can't even have that argument, right? So you could say maybe it's about keeping families together, except that, one, I would argue, yes, keep them together here in this country. But two, you have the father asking for the child to stay with him. There is a parent here. We're not talking about years in foster care. We're talking about living with the parent who's still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's messy.
It's not messy.
Terrible.
It's disgusting.
Okay.
Don't you think? Like,
well,
I cannot. This is the best country on the planet. The reason why people want to raise their children here is because it's the best country on the planet. And basically what you're saying to a father is, in the interest of having a strong border and having this issue matter, what we're going to do is deport your child to Honduras.
So in this one case, you're right. It is disgusting. It's unacceptable. When I say it's messy, I'm taking a step back and looking at our entire immigration system. And again, this is the crux. This is the conflict. Many Americans, and the majority of Americans who voted for President Trump, who were so desperate for anything to be done on immigration reform. He came into office with a clear mandate to take action. But again, now I think all of us were willing to stomach some imperfection and some messiness in that process and in those reforms. I think imperfections in implementing any process has been a hang-up to doing anything for decades. But now, Leah, with stories like this are the driving narrative. Donald Trump has lost the message around his immigration reform because of stories like this.
Yeah.
There's no way to justify it, and I'm trying really hard.
I know.
I'm
You're
trying
doing
so
good
hard.
work. You're doing good work, Taylor Morgan. All right, let's pivot. Next up on Inside Sources, Milestone reached today in the process to overturn Utah's collective bargaining ban, the latest on the HB 267 referendum, with my good friend Taylor Morgan, who is an expert on this, after the break.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave.
Oh, what a beautiful day.
This is regular deodorant.
Ugh, I can't.
Secret Clinical with workout sweat.
Let's run another marathon.
And regular deodorant.
How much more?
Secret is the GOAT. Because nothing fights sweat better.
Stay fresher under pressure.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates. This weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy, and Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park, Hurricane. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and there's a good chance you've heard me talking about our free furnace sale. The one where you buy a new air conditioner and we give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. Well, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than April 30th, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. The main reason we do this sale is to give you an incentive to help us keep our guys busy when the weather's mild. And thanks to your help, we're able to keep our guys and keep growing. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, you owe it to yourself to at least schedule a free estimate and get all the details about our free furnace sale. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
How does a soccer club born in an unlikely place?
Utah? You sure you want to do that in Utah?
Built with players no one else wanted.
We knew no one believed in us.
Reached the league's highest heights.
We finally did it. It was like just this feeling of getting to the top of the mountain.
Russell has made a champion out of Real Salt Lake. How does that same team find a way to shatter expectations in the midst of a fight for its own survival?
Our club is burning to the ground as we speak.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and in a new podcast, Making of a Moment, the RSL story, we take a closer look at one of those iconic sports moments.
Soccer is a crazy game, and we saw it firsthand tonight.
And unravel how knowing the truth of these moments can transform what they mean.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now. Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
A huge milestone, a landmark in Utah political history happened just this morning, Monday, April 28th, 2025. And Leah Murray here. I'm Taylor Morgan. This is KSL Inside Sources. Leah, I set this up, quite the preamble there, because I do believe this is a very big deal when it comes to Utah politics. The referendum being led by the Utah Education Association, involving, of course, other prominent public employee unions, the referendum to repeal House Bill 267. This is the bill that passed in the 2025 legislative session that prohibits collective bargaining by public unions. The referendum to repeal that bill now, this morning, officially has, according to the state elections office, 140,748 signatures. They have met and surpassed the threshold, the minimum number of signatures to qualify for this referendum to be placed on the 2026 ballot. Also, in addition, they have met the threshold of doing so in more than 15 of 29 state Senate districts. This is a big deal, Leah. The referendum, Leah, when I talked about this referendum when they first filed, I was unequivocal publicly saying, no way, no how. They had 30 days.
Oh, that they wouldn't get it done.
That they wouldn't get it done.
Right.
And I am so happy now to eat crow publicly and celebrate the fact they did this. Now, I don't have a position on this referendum. I'm not for it. I'm not against it. I have no stake in this whatsoever. I've been tracking it really closely. My firm has published a spreadsheet dealing with the Senate distribution that has been used by some of the media. This is something I've been tracking because I do think the constitutional right of Utah voters, guaranteed by the state constitution to repeal legislation through a referendum, also to create policy by initiative, these rights are sacred here in Utah. And Leah, I had no confidence that they could gather that many valid signatures in so little time. And they did it.
So talk to me, because you, I think, are totally an expert on this. So listeners, if you didn't know, Taylor Morgan is like the referendum sensei.
I wouldn't say that.
Whenever I want to understand initiatives or how this stuff works, Taylor, you're the person that I ask. Does that make sense? Like,
sure.
You have a feeling.
Yeah.
So when you say it's landmark, and when you say, I thought no way, no how they would get this done.
Yeah.
Like, why are you eating crow? Does that make sense?
That's
like,
a
what
great
about
question.
it?
Yeah. My skepticism of their ability to do this, to collect over 140,000 valid signatures in at least 15 of 29 state Senate districts, that was based on nearly 20 years, 2 decades experience working with Utah initiatives and referenda. I had experience working with this in the elections office. I worked there for a couple years where I verified signatures and tracked that process for initiatives and for referenda. I have run 2 statewide initiatives, and I know the process intimately, far better than I'd like to know it. It is so hard.
It's hard to
do.
And
it is so expensive. And, a lot of credit to the folks behind this referendum. In fairness, we should point out, according to disclosure reports published by the state elections office at disclosures.utah.gov, they have been funded to the tune of just under $3 million coming in out of state from the National Education Association. So,
so like a national interest group.
Yes.
Really took I'm going to use the word interest twice in like a second. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Really took an interest in this legislation, in overturning it and using the initiative referendum process to do so.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they must have known they were going to win. So what did they know that you didn't know?
Well, Leah, money isn't the sole determinant of success when it comes to an initiative or a referenda. And it was publicized early on that the National Education Association would be contributing significantly to this referendum effort. $2.5 million was the initial commitment from the NEA to the UEA, Utah Education Association, the group kind of spearheading the referendum. That, I wasn't surprised by that. I knew it would be expensive. But, Leah, in order to get over 140,000 valid signatures statewide, you have to have not only a paid professional effort that is elite, you have to also have a very well-organized, disciplined, effective statewide volunteer apparatus. And so this referendum effort appears to have had both.
Do you think it's because, first of all, they're organized labor?
Nobody
organizes their volunteers better than organized labor. Like, maybe the thing is, the legislature didn't realize how well organized they were.
I think the legislature...
And pause real quick. I'm so sorry.
Sure,
then I'll let you talk. But, it was the NEA, which is the Education Interest Group.
Yeah.
But this bill was about it was about, I remember talking about it, police unions as well.
And firefighters.
Like all kind of public service unions.
Yeah.
But maybe a little bit teachers being the forefront of the argument. Maybe legislators didn't realize how much that wouldn't fly.
Yeah. No, I think legislators gave them credit and assumed that it would be a well-organized effort. But, dummies like me just assumed that 30 days was just too little time to do it.
Right.
And at the time, I remember...
Right, because say it again. What's the number? I need this percentage of...
Over 140,000 valid signatures, and you have to meet a threshold that is 8% of essentially, votes cast for president in the last election in at least 15 of the state's 29 districts.
So I want to be clear. You can't just go to Salt Lake County to do that.
That's exactly right. You have to have those signatures distributed across 15 of our state's 29 Senate districts. That means this referendum has signatures already across the Wasatch Front and beyond. They have signatures throughout Davis County. Of course, they have them in Salt Lake County, but also Utah County and beyond. And Leah, based on the best projections, it appears as if they will qualify with somewhere around 17 to 19 state Senate districts. So a removal effort is still possible, but they have so many signatures, Leah, that I just want to take a beat today. As someone who is very cynical and skeptical of their ability to do this, I want to call this out as a landmark event when it comes to the rights of Utah voters. Whether or not you support or oppose this referendum, regardless of where you are, the fact that the process is working and is being used and that the threshold is attainable, I think that is a very good thing. And I want to celebrate that regardless of where you are on the issue.
Yeah, so tell me, given what you know, given your 2 decades plus worth of work in this space, does the referendum pass? Does this energy early, is it usually an indicator or a predictor of what it looks like when it comes to the ballot?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
And it's similar to a poll. You know, polls are not predictive. Polls are a snapshot in time. There has been a lot happening with the legislature. The legislature has a public image problem right now. The polling shows that generally voters are happy overall with the legislature, and they're happy with the Republican supermajority in the legislature. However, the polls also show, Leah, that if you get down to specific issues like education, and you ask voters about the handling by the legislature of one specific issue, if you ask voters about how the legislature handled Amendments A and D last year, that's a separate conversation. Voters are frustrated with the legislature.
And it sounds like it's education.
That
is the bugaboo, right?
That's the number one issue, no matter what party you're in or if you're unaffiliated. If you live in Utah, your number one issue is education across the board. I believe that is a big part of this. Okay. Yeah. More to come. Certainly a story that we will continue to track here on KSL Inside Sources. Coming up in the second hour of the show, a new study shows that the proposed Rio Grande plan in Salt Lake City could generate more than $12 billion in economic output. We'll get into all of that coming up after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shilaos. KSL's top local story. Catholic Community Services Refugee Resettlement Program will now be privately funded after the Trump administration cut $2.5 million from the program. Refugee Services Director Aidan Batar says they help refugees with all kinds of things.
Case management, employment services, mental health services, youth programming, and then volunteer engagement. So many things that we need to do for these families that would help them their path to self-sufficiency. We want to make sure that they keep their housing, they keep their job.
Batar says they need still about $1 million to meet their goals, but he's sure that they will get that after seeing the outpouring of support so far. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. We are learning new details about one of the victims killed when a 30-year-old man allegedly drove an SUV into a crowd at a festival in Vancouver this weekend.
A teacher who was also a school counselor has now been identified as one of the 11 killed. Kira Salim worked at 2 schools southeast of Vancouver. The school district saying in a statement that Salim had a powerful impact on children. 32 people were hurt when the car plowed into the crowd. Kai G. Adam Lowe, the alleged driver, has a history of mental health issues and run-ins with police.
That is ABC's Alex Stone. Taking a look at your money at this moment. At the close, the Dow up by 72 points, sitting at 40,185. S&P 500 down by about 8 points, and the NASDAQ gets down by 64 points. Get ready for some nicer weather tomorrow, more sunshine. We'll get a look at the updated forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With Progressive, it's easy to reach customer service with our app, website, chat, or by phone. Because when getting help is hard, it's not help at all.
A little help. A little help over here.
Thank you for calling Bench Press Assistance.
What?
Due to excessive gym volume, all available spotters are currently lifting heavy weights off the chests of other bench pressers.
Seriously?
Please continue to hold, and we will remove the barbell from your chest in the order in which your cry for help was received.
Getting assistance should be easy. With Progressive, it is. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Spring is the perfect time to refresh your home. And Zero-Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is here to help. Right now, get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, plus a free hallway for just $119. And for a whole home refresh, take 20% off upholstery cleaning. Unlike traditional cleaners, Zero-Res uses patented ZR water, a powerful cleaning solution that lifts dirt and grime without harsh chemicals or detergents. That means your carpets and upholstery stay cleaner, longer, and dry in hours, not days. It's safe for kids, pets, and the environment. Plus, every cleaning comes with the Zero-Res Gotta Love It guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, Zero-Res will re-clean for free within 30 days. Don't miss out on these limited time offers because spring cleaning starts now. Get started today at Zerores.com and mention KSL to lock in your deal. That's Zerores.com.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
People think saving money is hard, but really, it's easy. It's as simple as changing a few spending habits. For free tips on how to save the easy way, check out feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
Well, crews have literally just wrapped up an accident in Utah County at the ramp at the I-15 junction at University Parkway in Orem. It really didn't cause a big issue since it was over to the shoulder, but now you're all clear to get through that area. Valley Freeway traffic in really good shape at this time. Olson's Greenhouse helps families connect with nature through hands-on gardening. The perfect way to spend time and grow together. At Olson's Flowers to porches, patios, beds, or containers during Olson's Container Fest, April 26th. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cloudy skies this afternoon, 30% chance of showers and a high of 61, up to 68 tomorrow. A lot more sunshine, and then those showers return on Wednesday. Right now, 55 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
If you've been following any kind of transportation news over the past few years, you may have heard about the Rio Grande Plan. We've talked about it, I think, early days on KSL at Night, actually, Taylor.
Yeah.
This was something that we talked about. This plan calls for burying railroad tracks through Salt Lake City in a kind of like train box, right? So taking all those trains down underground, right?
How old is it? Oh, let me just say something on a personal anecdote here, Leah. I have started to become more interested in trains.
Oh, that's what happens when you
get
close
to 50. I
to
feel like I
50.
come full circle. And I'm I turned 46 last week. I'm getting older, and I'm starting to become a little more excited. In fact, maybe even enthusiastic about trains.
You could build a whole Rio Grande model in your house with your train set.
Yeah.
That'll be a thing.
I'm interested in trains. I'm researching where I can go with my family on trains. I am excited about this story.
All right, so I love you, Taylor. So we are so excited about trains for Taylor. But I am too. Actually, let me just say this. I took my Girl Scout troop on a train from Salt Lake City over to Colorado to show them how cool trains were. I love trains. Over the next 2 segments, we're going to chat with Brett Ross and Taylor Larson, who are volunteers with the Rio Grande Plan, and whom I imagine are more into trains than either we are.
Maybe. Guys, trains. Let's talk. Yeah, we'll see. I'm talking real trains, too. No offense to Trax. No offense to Front Runner, okay?
Our segments go off the rails real quick.
I am talking real trains, guys. So excited to have you here in studio. Tell our listeners, give our listeners the 30,000-foot view here of the Rio Grande Plan. It's not new necessarily, but even myself, as we started researching and talking about this segment with the Rio Grande Plan, I didn't know exactly what it meant. Where do you want to start?
I could start for you a little bit. Christian Leithart actually came up with the idea, I think, during COVID lockdowns. He was in school and he kind of thought the concept of what's happening with downtown, why is it so hard to get across those railroad tracks, etc. So he came up with the idea, which is basically to bury the rails underground, cover those rails, make that completely be able to transfer across roads, streets, sidewalks, etc., and take that traffic where it is currently into Central Station back to the historic rail corridor, which is 5th West, and then use our historic 100-year-old depot as our central station.
Okay.
So just tell me, what is first of all, I think it's super cool. We were just talking about getting to Colorado on the Amtrak when you leave at 2 a.m. is interesting when you're doing that with a bunch of little Girl Scouts. But so what's the value add, right, of moving some of those parts back to the Rio Grande building originally? Talk to us about what makes it better.
Why move it underground? How is that an improvement?
Yeah, so one of the major issues that Christian and Cameron Blakely, the 2 co-creators of this plan, saw was, like Brett was saying, there's this disconnect between the east and west sides of the city. Bridging those 2 sides and doing it in a safe way allows emergency services to access more streets. They don't have to take 13th South or any other overpass to get to the west side or to get to the east side. So it's a public safety thing. It allows safer transfer for people walking, biking, no more wasted time at listening to that ding 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 ding. No more train horns. I mean, it's so many intangible benefits, but economic benefits as well. Redeveloping that area would do a world of good. I used to work there. I used to work at the road home, worked at Big D Construction. I think about Pioneer Park on Saturdays during the summer. That's a cool neighborhood, and it just needs a little bit of help. And we think that the Rio Grande Plan is a really great way forward for not just that area, but the whole state.
Yeah, give us a number, what we're talking about, and what you expect when you get to redevelop that area. What amount of economic activity do you expect to see?
So the number that Utah State University quoted us in the study was $12 billion, over $12 billion. And that's, from the first shovel in the ground through train box reconstruction, undergrounding the rails, into the first year of a fully redeveloped area. So how long does that fully redeveloped area take? I mean, the market decides, but we think that could start in as soon as a few years if we were to get going today on it.
All right, so let's just put that into cost benefit, both sides of the ledger. A 2023 Salt Lake City study estimated doing the project would be $5 billion.
Big.
Right, so that's a lot of money. But if you can recoup or generate $12 billion in economic activity, that's actually a net positive $7 billion.
Yeah.
It's that, plus every year thereafter, it's over $3 billion in economic input to the state coffers. So.
Now, has your group looked at the public safety implications of this plan? I know that the Rio Grande area and the station, is problem, Leah, is that a strong enough of a word? This area has long been a bit of a problem when it comes to homelessness, public safety. we were talking before the segment here about these train routes, and I would love to take a train with my young kids to Colorado. I'd love to go on that trip. I don't feel safe, though, at this Rio Grande station in this neighborhood. I just don't feel safe, and I know a lot of other Utahns don't feel safe. How would your plan contribute to that sense of public safety and the walkability of downtown?
Yeah, so one of the things, I'm not an urban planner, but I run around a lot in those circles, and one of the things they talk about a lot is for public safety, there just need to be more eyes on the street, on the sidewalks, those different things. And it's tough because there's not a lot there. And, it's disconnected, so you're also not getting drivers going through. There's just, there aren't a lot of people there. It's this afterthought, I think, from a lot of the city and the state, and it shows. And so getting development, getting buildings, lighting, all of the other things that come with redevelopment would be huge for that area, and it would create a big push towards public safety.
And the key to that is removing the rail tracks. I mean, I grew up in Utah, right, down in Provo, so I've seen many, many city efforts to try to develop that area, and nobody really wants to develop it because you don't want to be stuck behind a train for 30 to a half an hour going home or to work.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So if we can get rid of the rails, we put them underground, then suddenly it becomes part of or an extension of Salt Lake City to the west.
All right, so Brett, I'm just going to pick on you a little bit here with a big smile on my face. So I don't live in Salt Lake City. I've never been caught behind these trains. But taxpayer money of mine is going to go into the $5 billion. And maybe those $12 billion you're talking about only comes back out to Salt Lake County where I don't live. Can you talk to us about the effects across the Wasatch Front? Does that make sense? Down to where you said Provo, up to where I live, which is Ogden. How does this affect the entire region?
So if we go back to the 2002 Olympics, when they decided to implement or install the Frontrunner and the TRAX trains, the Frontrunner system goes from Provo up to Ogden. A lot of people commute into the city or to those other areas for work, etc., leisure, whatever. Because those Frontrunner trains will also be buried under this train box, as we call it. So all of the transportation, both public and the Union Pacific Railroad trains, etc., will go underground through that part of town. So if you're commuting into the city for a general conference or a game at the Delta Center or possibly a Major League Baseball game at Power District, if we're able to get that, this kind of acts as the triad of those three areas and makes walkable downtown experience much, much easier.
All right, well, he had me at baseball, right, Taylor? If we get a baseball team, I'm in.
No, I'm excited about this plan. I still have a lot of questions. We're very fortunate to be joined live in studio by Brett Ross and Taylor Larson, volunteers with the Rio Grande Plan. Listeners, stay tuned because after the break, we're going to continue the conversation about the Rio Grande Plan and get to some additional questions, thoughts, concerns, really talk this through. So listeners, you won't want to miss that. Stay right here for more on Inside Sources.
We're the professional staff at Renaissance Ranch.
We are all recovered drug addicts and alcoholics enjoying life in recovery.
We don't see addicts as bad men trying to be good.
Rather sick men that need to get well.
This is our message to them. That it doesn't matter how lost, beaten down, or defeated you may feel.
We know you can overcome the darkness as we have.
And now, we're honored to be here for you and to show you the way out.
Our greatest desire for you is to see what we see.
That you are capable of healing.
That you are divine.
Prepare to emerge as the father, husband, and son that you were destined to be.
So to our new brother,
we say, welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome to the Brotherhood of Renaissance Ranch.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 30% upfront bonus? Are they promising you up to 10% growth per year guaranteed for your retirement income? If not, you need a new financial advisor. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. If you plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait only to find out it's too late. I've seen hard-working folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They're not. That's up to $30,000 up front or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't work when you're supposed to be retired. And if any financial advisor tells you it's too good to be true, they simply don't have the options we do. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claim's paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
What's better than the thrill of reeling in your next trophy catch? Saving big while gearing up for it. The Shields Fishing Sale event is on now through May 4th. Save 20% on Shields Outfitters rods and 20% on baits, lures, and plastics from Berkley, Rapala, BMC, Acme, and more. And don't miss out on over $1,000 in savings on Garmin Ultra 2 Live Scope bundles. Our Shields fishing experts are ready to prepare you for unforgettable fishing memories. Only at Shields and Shields.com.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
The Rio Grande Plan envisions a grand future for the west side of downtown Salt Lake City, potentially generating over $12 billion in economic benefits for Utah's future. These are benefits not just for downtown Salt Lake City, but for the entire state, from Ogden to Payson. Leah Murray here. I am Taylor Morgan. This is Inside Sources. Leah, your question was, why should I care about this if I live in Ogden?
What is it in it for me?
What does it do for me?
Right,
What's
what
in
does
it for me?
do
Classic Leah Murray right here thinking. We're so happy to be joined live here in studio by Brett Ross and Taylor Larson, volunteers with the Rio Grande Plan. I'm looking at some numbers here. We're talking $3.2 billion in annual commercial and business output across Salt Lake County from redeveloping the 75-acre project area we're talking about here. We're talking about burying the railroad lines. The west side of downtown Salt Lake City, adjacent to the Rio Grande building, burying those lines in what we're calling a train box. I like that idea because I like trains.
You like those words together, yeah.
Great assembly of words there together. We're talking about $375 million in annual state and local tax revenue, 52,000 new jobs, $120 million in annual tourism income in Salt Lake County from expanding the hospitality sector, 13,600 new permanent jobs in office, retail, and hospitality. We're talking over 2,600 new housing units created in Salt Lake City. Okay, guys, Taylor, Brett, so many positives from the outcomes of the Rio Grande Plan. I have to ask you, why hasn't this happened yet? It seems like such a slam dunk. What is the roadblock? What is slowing this project down right now?
We think it's because it's just hard to imagine all of these entities that have their own way of working, their own goals, their own ideas, all coming together in a sort of unified purpose. Whether that's UTA with their headquarters building, whether that's UDOT being concerned about other transportation methods, whether that's Union Pacific worried about the way their business operates. There's a lot of different stakeholders.
Yeah.
And
And the other thing, too, is up until this Utah State University study, we only had the cost. We knew it was $3 to $5 billion a cost, but we didn't know what the benefit was. So now that they've completed the study, we can say, oh, the $5 billion cost will give us $12 billion in benefit. Now it's a completely different discussion, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah, and I just want to elevate that right there, right? Utah State University, and I'm reading on your website, I think a couple of students were doing undergraduate research on this. So sorry, as the professor in the room, I have to go. What a cool way of leveraging expertise, right, in our state to answer the big question. If I'm going to outlay $5 billion, I want to know what I'm going to get back on the other end. I just appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, and it was so great working with Padram. He was the professor that was in charge of it from the Analytics Solutions Center at Utah State. Troy and Curtis were the two students, and they were fantastic. They asked a lot of good questions. They were very diligent in how they put everything forward to get those outputs, to look at those numbers. And we're eternally grateful for their work, because without it, we're still stuck at that $5 billion cost instead of a $12 billion
only one
benefit.
side of the ledger. Right. Yeah.
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks, though. We know that the economic benefits of the Rio Grande Plan could be huge and could be exponential. But in order to realize any of those, we have got to put money in. Where is that $5 billion coming from? Who would pay for that? How would that be paid for?
So we're not the first one to come up with this idea. San Francisco is doing it currently. Denver did a portion of this. Reno buried their train tracks through their downtown area. And there's a huge mini-mile portion of Alameda, California that did the same thing. So their source of funding came from about 50 to 60% of federal funds came in to support that. And then the other 50% had to be state or generated funds. So that's kind of what we're working with the legislature right now, is how do we look at funding mechanisms that could make this happen?
Yeah.
Also talk to me about the train people. So are Union Pacific on board? Yeah, for you taking their train and putting it down in a box?
Aren't we all train people?
Deep down.
We are now. But yeah, I mean, talk to us, because it's not just public money. There's a private entity, right, that owns this property.
Good point.
Are they playing ball with us?
So in 2023, Union Pacific worked with Salt Lake City on a feasibility study. Union Pacific had certain asks. Salt Lake City tried to meet them, at least in a theoretical way, with what could this look like. So they came up with this feasibility study. Union Pacific has come to the table before. They've been at the table at other times within the state as an ally during the Olympics. And while they're not there currently, we think that if the state legislature is willing, if city officials are willing to all come together, we think that Union Pacific would certainly come to the table.
Got it. You've got no indication that they are not good with doing this, especially since you've seen them do it in a number of other locations.
Right.
I'm looking at this excellent graphic, attribute that to the Salt Lake Tribune, showing all of these current train lines in downtown Salt Lake City and the proposed train lines, what this would look like. I had no idea that there were so many above ground train lines throughout this area, from 17th South throughout downtown there along the West Side corridor there, primarily along, looks like between 5th West and 9th West, all the way up well past 6th North. There is a ton of real estate there that could be built upon if these train lines were buried. Now, if the legislature and others were to get on board and help fund the cost of this project, of the Rio Grande Plan, could this be done in time, say, for the Olympics? What does the timeline look like for the Rio Grande Plan?
Go ahead.
That's our hope. Is we think this is incredibly possible in time for the Olympics, especially sort of like the key parts of what we're talking about. Will full development be reached in 10 years? Probably not. But could we have the Rio Grande Depot as Utah's central station? This beautiful historic depot as our central station. The rails buried, those public safety benefits that we're talking about realized. Absolutely, we could do that in time for the Olympics.
I love that. And then people come for the Olympics and then talk about how cool it is, right? That's got to be a value add too.
Imagine having an Olympic staging area right in front of the depot. I mean, every grand city in the world has a very grand public transportation station. And we
That's
have one.
true.
It's 100 years old, and it's just sitting there vacant. So we really believe that it should become Utah's central station.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, thinking about major U.S. cities that I've been to just recently, that central main rail station, even functioning ones, they're a grand hall. They're a place, a monument, right, where people go and get their photos taken. I mean, these are places that define, in many ways, the core of any major city. And ours is stagnant. It's empty. It's decaying. And frankly, it's surrounded by crime.
We're lucky enough to have it. I mean, a lot of cities got rid of theirs. We still have two. One's now a hotel, but we have another one that could really be.
You're talking about the Union Pacific
Union
building
Pacific,
is the
that's-
hotel.
Mhm.
Rio Grande is empty.
Right.
Okay.
I'm wondering, so I'm looking at this same graphic, how disruptive over the next 10 years? I'm so sorry to ask you this question. So to get all those trains down into that train box, how can I even get to the Delta Center to watch a Jazz game? I'm just wondering how disruptive.
I mean, everything's under construction already, Leo.
So
Let's
maybe
just
no-
dig it up. Let's do it all at once. Let's just get it done.
All right, I got you.
Taylor's on board.
And I'm joking in a sense, but really,
He's a train
though,
guy that remembers.
we know that the revitalization zone in Salt Lake City is a thing. The legislature has supported that. We now officially have a sales tax increase in Salt Lake City that is going to fund it. The Miller family is making big moves when it comes to the Power District and trying to get a Major League Baseball team here. A lot of things are happening with this part of the state. Can we get this included? Realistically, have you had conversations with those other projects and private investors and stakeholders? What is next for the Rio Grande plan?
We have had conversations with the Millers and the Smiths.
Brett's been a part of them.
I have been a part of them. They're very, very busy doing their own little projects. But I will say this. What would it be like as we develop this? What would the city encounter? The good thing is the train tracks would continue operating until one day when the tunnel is already built and covered up, then we just move the trains underneath that train box. So the only real impact on the city would be building 5th West, the train box along there.
Yeah.
All right.
I like it. I'm in. Let's do it, guys.
Okay,
let's go.
All your ears, Taylor. Brett Ross and Taylor Larson, volunteers with the Rio Grande Plan. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having us.
No, and I love this whole idea, even though I sound super skeptical when I'm asking questions. Next up on Inside Sources, 15 years ago, Taylor, Utah government, business, religious, and community leaders came together to sign an agreement on immigration, focusing on humanity while not neglecting the legality. How are things going today? We'll get into it after the break.
Good afternoon, 2:30 at KSL. I'm Jeff Kaplan. KSL's top local story this hour. A 21-year-old accused of shooting and killing a teenager in South Salt Lake over the weekend turns out had been accused of a different murder just a few years ago. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson with more.
Police say Salman Ahmed got into a fight Saturday night and was threatening two women. That's when police say he grabbed a gun. Jail documents say an 18-year-old victim stepped in, tried to de-escalate the situation, but ended up getting shot in the back. Ahmed drove off. He was found and arrested several hours later. But this isn't the first time being accused in a shooting. In 2022, police say he was involved in a gang dispute where an 18-year-old was shot and killed. Ahmed did face a murder charge then, but took a plea deal for lesser charges. Randall Jepson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The White House says President Trump will sign 2 more executive orders furthering his immigration crackdown. According to his press secretary, one order addresses sanctuary cities.
It will direct the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to publish a list of state and local jurisdictions that obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws.
The White House has been publicizing the Trump record on immigration as he closes in on his 100th day in office Wednesday. Your money at this moment, the Dow was up, but only by 14 points. Coming up, warmer weather and wetter weather are both on the way. The KSL forecast is next. Stay here. KSL News Time, 2:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
An emergency can happen any second. Here's a few seconds to think about where you'd go. When you need medical care fast, the closest emergency room is a smart thing to know. Common Spirit Health ERs are your direct path between feeling scared or uncomfortable and feeling better. Find emergency care in your neighborhood at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Are you looking for a fun way to get your kids outside and off their screens this spring? Try flower gardening. Starting a beautiful flower bed or easy container garden is a great hands-on way to spend quality time together while teaching kids about nature. They'll love digging in the dirt, picking out their favorite flowers, and watching them bloom, all while making real, lasting memories. Plus, gardening is a great way to slow down, soak up some sunshine, and enjoy the fresh air as a family. This is Brian with Olson's Greenhouse, and my family has been growing flowers with care for 4 generations right here in Utah. Whether you have a big sunny backyard or just a small shady front porch, our colorful, locally grown flowers make it easy to add beauty to your home. So this spring, start with a new family tradition, one that grows with your kids. Get inspiration at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens on Instagram or find a garden center near you at ogg.com. That's ogg.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. What is the #1 reason people buy a hot tub and then don't use it? The maintenance. Arctic Spas is relentless in making maintenance easy with our automatic saltwater system. We call it Spa Boy because it's like having someone else take care of your spa for you all the time. It uses salt water, which is the more natural way of treating water, making the water more comfortable. You get no smell, no red eyes, or dry skin, just pure enjoyment. It's automatic because it has a sensor that reads the water and then automatically adjusts the sanitizer and the pH. You don't have to test and adjust the water yourself. You can even monitor everything from your Arctic Spa app on your phone. Now, get all the relaxing advantages of a hot tub without the not-so-relaxing maintenance. So for the most comfortable and convenient spa out there, check out Arctic Spas with stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George, or online at arcticspasutah.com. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
As a business owner looking to take your business to the next level, it's all about the right marketing. But what exactly is right for you? At KSL News Radio, we are ready to help you craft the perfect comprehensive strategy. Whether it's our powerful talent endorsements, engaging live interviews, creative production, live events, or our extensive digital platforms, we've got you covered with the right solution. Contact Stephanie Palmer today, spalmer@ksl.com, and let's grow your business together. Email spalmer@ksl.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style Checking with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a small accident. This is northbound I-15 in the South Salt Lake area. It's just after 3300 South, and before you get to 2100 South, it looks like all vehicles are out of traffic over to the shoulder. Of course, you can always text us with your traffic tips. Our KSL Mountain Home Services text line is always open at 57500. Murdoch Chevrolet, home of 2.9% for 6 years on Silverado 1500. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL forecast down to 44 overnight, then sunshine, 68 for tomorrow, but showers are on the way for Wednesday. Right now, 56 degrees. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
For the past 15 years, Utah has attracted praise and attention for the way we deal with immigrants. In 2010, 120 leaders from around the state, government, business, community, and religious leaders signed what's known as the Utah Compact. The goal? To maintain compassion and humanity when discussing such a controversial legal issue as immigration. Welcome back to KSL Inside Sources. I am Taylor Morgan here with Leah Murray. Leah, the Utah Compact truly is one of these pivotal landmark moments in Utah political history. At the time, this was seen through all different lenses. It was widely acclaimed, but also criticized. Back in 2010, the Utah Compact definitely set the tone, or what many leaders at the time, what they hoped would be the tone when it comes to immigration. Let's listen to KSL 5 TV's Deanne Wimmer giving us a brief overview on her story covering the Utah Compact.
It was a remarkable moment given the political landscape of 2010. The immigration debate grew increasingly hostile. Our neighbor to the south, Arizona, passed a law that obligated police to determine someone's immigration status if there was reasonable suspicion a person was in the country illegally.
Everybody across America is watching Arizona right now, and the violence is off the chart.
That contention actually motivated leaders in Utah to find a more tempered approach.
And you could feel some of the same turmoil, controversy, unrest that was being felt in Arizona coming to Utah. And Utah leaders didn't want that.
Let's establish what we think are the important principles that ought to be followed with immigration reform.
Community, business, and religious leaders spent months working on wording, and more than 100 organizations signed the final document.
It set Utah apart.
It certainly did set Utah apart.
We stood out as a state to say we're going to be reasonable on our approach.
The 5 guiding principles of the Utah Compact for Immigration Reform: federal solutions, law enforcement, support for families, the economy, and a free society.
Should we keep families together? Absolutely. Should we enforce the rule of law? Absolutely. Can we do it in a compassionate way? Yes.
That Utah way, forging our own policy path, set a tone for lawmakers, and the compact put Utah in the national spotlight.
It was praised by the left, it was praised by the right, and then there were a lot of states that tried to replicate it.
Including Texas, Florida, Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas.
What I hear people say...
Fast forward to today, is there still broad support for the Utah Compact? The governor says yes.
Utah Compact, do you still support it?
I do. Yeah, I believe in the Utah Compact. I believe in the reasons behind it.
But others aren't so sure.
We've shifted away, perhaps, from the principles of the compact.
Some original signers are calling for another signing of the Utah Compact to offset the negative rhetoric.
I think it would be good if we could reaffirm once again that that's the Utah way.
The Utah way may not be enough to bring leaders back to the signing table, but economic realities might.
Has it impacted business in Utah?
It stabilized our workforce, which is so critical to our economy.
As one of the fastest growing states, economists say we need immigrants.
Immigrants are a huge part of our economy.
There are more than 304,000 immigrant residents in Utah that contribute $1.2 billion in state and local taxes. The Salt Lake Chamber says immigrant entrepreneurs bring in $650 million to our state's economy. Recognizing the impact, state lawmakers tried to follow up on the Utah Compact with laws that allowed migrant visas and work permits, but they were challenged in federal court on the grounds they overstepped federal jurisdiction. And that underscores the need for federal policy on immigration.
And that's where they say the federal government needs to do their job. This whole week, we'll have coverage of immigration, the dream divided, at 10 o'clock. Such an important issue. Hope you'll join us.
And that was KSL 5 TV's Deanie Wimmer taking a look back at the Utah Compact. Of course, coming up tonight on KSL 5 TV at 10 o'clock, Daniel Woodruff will take a closer look at federal solutions to immigration problems by chatting with members of Utah's congressional delegation. That will be fascinating. Leah Murray, was the Utah Compact in 2010 relatively early on in your transition to becoming a full-time native Utah.
Oh, I like that because
Semi-native Utah.
I mean, the thing that I will tell you,
adopted Utah. I'm sorry.
That's right. I chose to be here.
Yes.
The thing I thought was interesting. So I will just say this to you, and then you correct me. I have this vivid memory of a political satirical cartoon. The entire Republican apparatus nationally was turning away from immigrants and turning away from refugees. Like this was not something that was going to be copacetic in that party.
Yeah.
And there's this cute little cartoon because there's Governor Herbert standing there all by himself as the only Republican governor saying refugees could come here.
Yes.
So I was super aware of what I thought.
That was back in 2016, right?
Right, yeah. So I was super aware of how cool I thought Utah's approach to being Republican was. Does that make sense? So when you ask me,
are you retracting your feelings
No,
on
no,
how
no.
cool we are here in Utah as Republicans?
I still think you're cool.
Thank you.
But it was a different, how do I say? And again, in this article, they talk about it exemplified, the Utah Compact exemplified the Utah way, forging our own policy path, right? That Utah was going to be what I think George W. Bush wanted, this idea of compassionate conservatives, right?
Yes,
So that was what Utah was. So when you ask me, was I aware of it? Yeah. I was super aware of, Utah's Republican and also created CHIP, which is the Children's Health Insurance Plan, right? Utah's Republican and also super cool with refugees, all of which I thought was I loved about my adopted home state, right? This was, I thought, really cool. A little bit I want to ask you, do you feel like that's still, I'm going to just turn it back on you. You said to me,
please.
do I still think you all are cool?
Yeah.
But do you still think there's a Utah way? I mean, a little bit. I feel like in some of our Republican elected leaders there is, but I think in a number of our elected leaders, they're much more national in their messaging. Their Republican national messaging comes right out of the pages of Florida or Texas. But maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe I'm a little jaded. What do you think?
No, I think that's right. I think that while we haven't lost our way, the Utah way when it comes to immigration reform, to compassionate conservatism, is we have taken too many steps backward. If you'd have asked me 15 years ago where Utah would be in 2025 when it comes to these kinds of issues surrounding immigrants and refugees, I think I and anyone else would have assumed that Utah would still be leading the way when it comes to compassionate conservatism. Leah, we're not doing that.
Okay.
I believe here in Utah, we have chosen to mirror other red states on these policies rather than lead and show the way. We're following in others' footsteps right now, and I think that's disappointing, and that's why I'm so excited about this in-depth look back by KSL 5 TV's Deanie Wimmer, by Daniel Woodruff, looking at the relevance today of the Utah Compact. Yeah. How do we get back on track?
Right,
here
and maybe
in Utah?
Revisiting why it mattered then.
Yeah.
Right. Why Governor Herbert was saying what he was saying.
Yes. And to be self-aware and self-critical here, I am part of this problem as a Republican here in Utah because I have grown so frustrated by the inaction and politicization of immigration federally that, again, that I've been willing to stomach not doing these things the right way in order for anything to happen.
Yeah.
That's a big part of the problem.
All right, so coming up next, Taylor, in our final segment, national travel, lavish furnishings, new cars, a new apartment, a bidet for the office.
Hey, I'm a big fan of bidets. I am a bidet apologist, so you leave the bidet out of this.
More on that next.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave. Oh, what a beautiful day. This is regular deodorant.
Ugh, I can't.
Secret Clinical with workout sweat.
Let's run another marathon.
And regular deodorant.
How much more?
Secret is the GOAT because nothing fights sweat better.
Stay fresher under pressure.
Join the KSL Greenhouse Show this Saturday as they broadcast from Gardenia headquarters, 845 Overland Road in North Salt Lake. Get exclusive pricing on hose reels, robotic mowers, and so much more.
Hi, I'm Christine. 15 years ago, my world as a mom crumbled when my two sons finally were able to be honest about their substance addiction. My husband and I had been attending a 12-step addiction recovery program at our church to learn how to help our sons. We learned addiction is a life-threatening brain disease that's chronic, progressive, and has the capacity to take away free agency. I searched desperately to find the right help for our sons and was told to look for a strong aftercare program. By the grace of God, we found that with Renaissance Ranch and also found their amazing family program. Research studies indicate family members play a huge role in treatment outcome and long-term sobriety. Today, we are grateful owners of Renaissance Ranch with our sons and know addiction is a family illness, and families can find healing and connection when they are willing to learn more about recovery. If you have a loved one suffering from addiction, don't wait to seek help. Join us in our online Christ-centered family education classes that are open to the public at no charge. Look for us at renaissanceranch.com.
This Friday from 10 to 1, the movie show comes to Sound Sleep. But first, take time to learn about a better night's rest. Sound Sleep delivers oral appliance therapy that treats sleep apnea without the use of CPAP machines. They're professionally fit, warranted, and covered by most major medical insurance. End the days of a poor night's sleep. With offices from Clearfield to St. George, Sound Sleep will help. Call Sound Sleep at 801-716-8672 today.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy, and Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park, Hurricane. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
While President of Utah State University, Betsy Cantwell, received an annual salary of more than $580,000, she also, and this is a story breaking in the Salt Lake Tribune today, man, I'll tell you what, she lived a lavish life. You've got me, Leah Murray, alongside Taylor Morgan Taylor.
Now, what would you say is lavish, Leah? Let's call out some specifics here.
Oh, all right, let's go. So we have got new cars, SUV. We've got an apartment in Salt Lake City. So when she comes down to woo the legislature, she has a place to stay.
Okay.
Traveling nationally. Office renovation to the tune, I think, of like $240,000, including luxury furnishings, My favorite part about this, actually, I've got two favorite parts. One is the chair, which costs $3,000, and her own bidet. So,
now, don't disparage bidet owners, Leah.
Pause.
There's nothing
Pause.
wrong with owning a bidet.
If you are a public servant using taxpayer money to put a bidet in your public office, there is absolutely something wrong with that, Taylor Morgan.
Okay. How much was the bidet? Do we know exactly how much she spent? Because you can get a very nice bidet.
$750.
That's a little excessive. Okay.
All right,
that's
so
fair.
let's.
I'll give you
So
that
I
one.
want to just tell you this real quick story. She was president for about 5 minutes. Last year, I was invited to her investiture.
Okay.
Most presidents call it an inauguration. The United States president calls it an inauguration, but they called it an investiture.
Ooh,
All right?
fancy. That
Very
sounds,
fancy.
It sounds more expensive somehow.
Yeah, it probably was. And for that investiture, which is basically them announcing she's the president, they paid $54,000.
Yikes.
Had very specific direction from the president, Betsy Cantwell. No florals, only ferns. So I attended that investiture. I'm very supportive. People invited me, and so I went. And a little I was like, this is the bougiest, ostentatious thing I've ever seen. And Taylor, I went to Syracuse University, which is a super elite, wealthy school, right? Like I've seen bougie stuff in higher ed, never at a public school. Very over the top. So when this story came down, that during her 18-month tenure, Betsy Cantwell authorized $43,000 SUV, $28,000 golf cart. This is my favorite part.
Holy
so
smokes.
She had
What did you just say?
A $28,000 golf cart to drive her around campus so she could be places where she had to be.
Oh, Leo, I have priced out some golf carts. Let me tell you what. I also just may or may not have had to pay to fix a golf cart that allegedly was crashed in Mexico by a family member. I'm not going to get into the details,
Did
Leah.
it cost $28,000?
No, it did not. That is an insane number for a golf cart.
No kidding. And
wow.
And I want to be clear, I work at a higher ed, right? I work at Weber State. That's a hill, and I hate climbing it, so I understand the need.
Yeah.
Or the desire. Really not the need. I would never understand the need. $750 bidet we already talked about. For the police officer who was assigned as her driver of the golf cart, a $300 suit.
Hold on. She has a police officer driving the $28,000 golf cart?
With a $300 suit.
Okay, hold on. A $300 suit?
Yeah.
There's nothing lavish about a $300 suit, Leah.
There
How much
is.
do you expect to pay for a suit?
Well, I'm not paying $300 for a suit for someone to drive me around campus.
What,
Maybe.
are we talking about a special golf cart driver suit? Or
All
just
right,
a suit
I'm moving
suit?
on, so you just stick
Okay,
on that
move
for a
on.
second.
You
Yeah.
keep going, please.
Office remodel, $246,000.
That's excessive.
$3,000 chair. But here's the thing that's really, I think, bad, and then we can kind of get into this. So that is $660,000 in university funds.
Wow.
For personal expenditures, on top of the annual salary of $581,000, $585,000, which she earned for the 1 year she was there.
Okay.
Because she left and to go be a president in Washington State. And everyone knew she had a golf cart. Everyone thought it was ridiculous. And nobody did anything. There was minimal oversight. None of the expenditures were flagged. Nobody questioned these purchases on her P card. I am shocked.
Well, no wonder the state legislature is taking a hard look at higher ed statewide and reviewing course offerings and programs and budgets. I think we know whose fault that is now, Leah Murray. But in all fairness, it's one thing for her to spend.
Do you think that? And then, go ahead.
I think it is part of the problem. I think it is an example of waste when it comes to higher ed. And higher education in Utah with public institutions, they are government agencies. And, I'm all about paying market rate for talent. And a university president, certainly the president of Utah's premier land grant institution, Utah State University, should be compensated well. I'm not going to argue with that. $581,000 a year for the president of Utah State University, I think, is reasonable. I don't care how that person spends their own money, right? That is their money. They could spend their own money on a $28,000 golf cart if they want. And I think
a $750 bidet.
I think that would be just fine. Knock yourself out, right? Drive your very expensive golf cart to your nice bidet, and it's not our job to ask questions about that. But when you are spending more public money on these kind of personal items, Leah, that should raise all kinds of alarms. How did she get away with this at the time, do you think? Where were the controls or the accountability?
Well, right? I mean, where was the accountability? The interesting thing, too, we brought up like the reallocation of funding, right? Utah State's share of that, remember, every single institution got a different amount of money that they have to reallocate to cancel those programs, to take those 5 colleges up at Utah State and make them to $12.6 million for that institution. And her, package is 10% of that.
Yeah.
So if we didn't pay her or we didn't have her bidet, I mean, I guess we'd still have to be moving that money around.
It's not all about the bidet, Leah. I'm going to say
I'm hung up on the bidet. You're hung up on the golf cart. We each got our thing.
It's because I want a $28,000 golf cart. I just can't afford it, Leah. I don't even know where I would buy that or what it would look like. I believe a $28,000 golf cart would come with a bidet. Am I wrong?
Yes. Let's go with you. Have to be wrong. Although it feels like if I'm spending that amount of money, just all of it's crazy.
Comes with everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting. In the Salt Lake Tribune story, the Utah State University Board of Trustees acknowledged the expenditures as maybe not being good, but emphasized that they don't approve day-to-day operational expenses. So a little bit, it's like, who does the accountability? If the president is the top, does that, right? Like, they are the last, I don't know, like the buck stops with them.
Yeah.
And I want to stop $661,000 going into ridiculous things. Someone's got to be paying attention on these day-to-day operations.
Yeah. What about the accounting office? There has to be someone who is reviewing and approving payment of these kind of personal expenditures, right, as part of the university president's budget. Now, where is this individual now? You said that she took a university president position in the state of Washington?
Yeah, and a little bit, headed over to Washington, announces in February that she is headed off there. So she was barely in the state of Utah for like a year. I think maybe it's 18 months. So she started her job, then did a year, and then bounced.
Now, in all seriousness, Leah, you're a professor, a very distinguished professor at Weber State University, director of the Olin Walker Center there as well. I imagine that you and those that work under you oversee a significant dollar amount when it comes to an annual budget. What kind of controls are in place at your institution to prevent this kind of waste?
Well, I'm going to tell you what. She traveled, and one of the places that she went, she stayed at this elite bougie spa. That hotel room for one night was $909. Well,
probably the only place that has a bidet that's
I know,
up to standard.
I get $750 for the year, Taylor. So a little
bit. For your travel expenses?
For travel for the year, yeah.
Yeah, wow. A lot of questions to ask. Certainly a great story published by the Salt Lake Tribune. Leah, fun conversation, wonderful show. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Coming up next here on KSL News Radio, it's Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. Right now in Salt Lake City, we're at 58. KSL's top story, it's going to be on the ballot this November.